Hello, hello, buenas tardes. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Um, this tonight's live is going to be a little different than what we typically do. Instead of one guest or two, I've got four guests tonight. We are going to be discussing, what it's like to live abroad as a Black woman, but we're going to get different points of view from all of the generations. Um, I think the idea for this came something I don't know, made this idea pop in my head watching Stephanie Perry's live about 2 weeks ago, a week ago, something like that. And so I'm glad y'all are here. And if you happen to be watching this on the replay and you're like, what did I stumble into? Welcome. My name is Adelia Borishade. Although most people on the internet know me as Picky Girl Travels the World, I live in Mexico City. I've been living outside the US since 2006, and I help other Black women, you know, re- realize whatever their dream is and figure out their finances so that they can live that dream, whether it is moving abroad, traveling long term, what have you. So if you're new, welcome, subscribe, turn on notifications, do all the things. Okay, so let's get started. Um, there are some ladies or some folks, because I don't know, there's some folks here in the chat who probably recognize some of you from different places, but just in case there aren't, how about we go around, you tell us, uh, I don't know, as an introvert, this is always like my worst fear, somebody making me go around and introduce myself. So I'm not inclined to do this. However, it would be helpful to the folks who are watching. Tell them who you are and where you have lived outside the US. We'll start there. Tony, you want to go first?
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name's Denise Carthan. I live in Playa del Carmen now. I have been in Mexico 18 months. The first 8 were spent in Merida, Mexico. I left Maryland in October of 2020, and I am proudly a baby boomer, 63 years old, and I traveled extensively when I was uh, my other fellow sisters' ages, much younger. And so I retired, and it was a time for me to start doing what I started many, many years ago. So I'm glad to be back out here, and I'm glad that the younger generations have embraced travel, because when I started doing it, there was no internet, there was no connection with other people. So this is really cool for me to see kind of the world catch up to what, especially our community catch up to what I've started doing in the 70s.
Oh, wow. Oh,
So
wow. Ashley?
Yeah, so hey guys, I'm Ashley. I also live in Playa del Carmen. I moved here about 6 months ago, and I've been solo traveling for 5 years. And yeah, I've lived all over. I've spent a bit of time in Southeast Asia, South America. Um, yeah, and so I guess I'm representing Gen Z. I'm 23, so yeah, I'm excited.
Okay. And next, the birthday girl, Miss Laila.
Hey everybody, my name is Laila, and I have been, I guess, I like to say full-time traveler because I kind of hate the term digital nomad now, but I started out in Turkey, so I spent 10 months living and traveling in Turkey, and then I spent about 3.5, 4 months in Mexico. I'm currently in the States, spending some time with my family due to a death we had in the family, and going back to Turkey to do some more country hopping on that side of the world. But pretty much, I am from Michigan originally. I left Michigan in November of 2020 with the desire to kind of just travel abroad and really explore and write about food. and I haven't turned back since.
Right.
Okay. And Jazzy?
Hey, I'm Jazzy, and I've been abroad about 5 years. It'll be 5 years in September. I've lived in Mexico. I actually started in Playa del Carmen, and then I lived in Bali for a bit, Thailand, Vietnam, and now I'm in Colombia.
Okay. All right. And I guess the plan is I'm gonna hold it down for Gen X. I do currently live in Mexico. Previously, I lived in Honduras and Kuwait and China. So we've got a few areas covered. Um, Now, one of the questions that I have for the group is what why'd you move abroad?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll start because my answer is pretty simple. I was in Michigan and I was bored. I was like, I need something adventurous and fun to do. And I actually ended up attending the Exodus Summit by Rashida Dow and Stephanie Perry in 2020. And I was like, that was the first time that my world was really opened up to seeing so many Black women that were living abroad. And I also had aspirations of being an international food writer. So I was like, hey, if all these sisters can do it, like I could do it. And so that was really my main motivation, kind of simply.
Cool.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I moved abroad. I don't know. I guess my response isn't as simple. Mine is a little bit more complicated, but to boil it down to its simplest thing is I I came to terms with the fact that I couldn't live the life I wanted in the US because people like me who don't buy into American individualism and America's the best place on earth. The US isn't kind to people like that. It's also not very kind to people who are not religious. And I always wanted to live abroad, but those things kind of made me say, like, I need to go. I also wanted to be able to afford health care.
Well, for me, it wasn't really, I don't know. I'd say I was just kind of looking for adventure. I started traveling on my own pretty young, so I was just looking for something new. I wanted to see the world, and I didn't really want to, wait on anyone to like come with me. I just kind of wanted to take off and see where traveling took me. So it kind of took me everywhere. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep going with that until I get maybe bored of it. Maybe I want to settle down, but for now, I'm pretty good traveling, being abroad.
Jazzy, you want to go next, or
You're muted.
do you want me to go? And
I think so.
okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, mine has some layers to it. I had raised three young men. Um, had went through a divorce. Had was a caregiver for my mother until she passed away, and so it was at a time in my life where I was like, okay, what's next? And I wanted to get the adventure back that I had when I was younger. And a real big part of me moving abroad was I saw myself getting afraid, just being afraid of what was going to happen. I mean, it seemed like life had changed the older you get. People respond differently. And I didn't like that. I didn't like becoming invisible. It seemed like after a certain age, I noticed people kind of treat you different. They do. And I didn't like that. And I needed more. And so I had been thinking about it for a long time because, as I said, my earlier roots were traveling. I had went to London and traveled all over Europe when I was younger, and I wanted to get that spirit back because I had been in a marriage, had raised kids, but the real part of me, I've always had wanderlust spirit, and I traveled, but I didn't want to be a tourist. I've been a tourist, going on vacation, but I really wanted to be a traveler. I wanted to wake up and be someplace place where nobody knew me and explore. And that's why I did it. And another big piece of this was a spiritual part, spiritual and healing. I had went through a lot of, had lost a lot of family members. So traveling is healing to me. Seeing new places, meeting new people, it just does something to my spirit. So yeah, that's kind of some of the layers that led me to make the leap at my age, because I really don't factor in my age a lot like a lot of people do. I just decide what I want to do and do it, and I've always functioned like that. Excuse me. And so yeah, so that's why I came to Mexico.
I moved abroad basically because I could. I had the opportunity. I could leave the states. I started 5 years probation before, and yeah, I could. And it started off with a 3 month trip to Mexico, and it turned into almost 5 years. Once I was on the beach and eating fresh mangoes, I was like, "What am I going to go back to?" So I just continued the journey.
Well, it's something you said, Tony, stuck out to me about disappearing. As a woman, the older we get, at least in the US, I think people ignore us. We disappear like it's like we've reached an expiration date and we no longer
Hmm.
have value.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's not. I don't know why we write that society writes people off. That's one of the things I love about being here in Mexico, is that I feel seen. I mean, I get people speaking to me all day long. When I function everywhere, the young men, which I love, the older men. I mean, I get acknowledged here, so I'm loving it because I'm not invisible, and that can take a toll on your self-esteem as a woman at any age. So so yeah, I like the love that I get here.
Yeah, and I kind of want to piggyback a little bit on what Miss Tony is saying. Miss Tony, who I had the opportunity to meet in Playa del Carmen
Hmm.
too. Uh, that just, I probably kind of oversimplified my reasons for leaving, or maybe I didn't discover that I had more reasons until I had left. That
Hmm.
a lot of it was like, when I say I was bored, I felt like I was bored because, like, I had been spending so much energy trying to become what everybody was saying I was supposed to be. At the time, I was 38. And so, it was like, well, what am I supposed to do if I'm not married? What am I supposed to do if I don't have
Hmm.
children? And what am I supposed to do if I don't necessarily want to work any harder to, be CEO, whatever? You know what I mean? And it was
Yeah.
kind of like, similar to the point that Miss Tony was making, that once I got abroad, it was like nobody was asking me like, "What do you do?" Nobody was like, people obviously would ask about my marital status because I'm out here traveling alone, but I never felt like I was being judged because I was, by the time I left, I was 39 going on 40. And I never felt like anybody was like, oh my God, you're 40. It was more so like people were almost like, wow, you're
Hmm.
40 and you're out here living, and so that
Hmm.
was the first time that I really got to experience that and kind of shed the stigma of feeling like, wow, I'm less than as a woman because,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because of some things that are kind of outside of my control at this point.
Right. Right.
Okay, I see several people asking to be reminded of what the different generations are. And these numbers, depending on the source you use, kind of vary a little bit. But boomers are somewhere between like born in 1946 to about 1964, Gen X, 65 to about 1980. Millennials are 1981 to 1985. I mean, 95, 96, about there. Gen Z starts at about 96. The cutoff, I have seen 2010, I've seen 2015, that's in flux. And um, So Ashley is obviously our Gen X representative. Tony is our boomer representative. Jazzy is here for the millennials, and Laila gets to be special. She is this little mini generation. She's what they call a zillennial or a zennial.
Wow.
Technically, the dates fall under millennial, but because there's, I guess, those particular years like 79, 80, 81, 82, you know, they're kind of their own little thing. They're a little bit like Gen X or a little bit like the millennials. And so they're their own little micro generation. Okay. And if y'all have questions, drop those in the chat as well, and we will get to those. Um, so I'm curious, Ashley,
Yeah.
given your youth, do you get a lot of questions about like, well, why are you out here living this life? Don't you want to follow like a more traditional path?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like every other day I get asked like when I'm gonna want to settle down and get married or when I'm gonna want to like, get like a full-on career. And so I feel as though there are also are more questions where it's like, okay, like how do I get like you? How can I kind of take like a non-traditional route in order to get to where I want? So honestly, both questions don't really bother me. I feel like people just like haven't really been exposed to like someone who does like travel full time as often, especially within the Black community. So either way, like I'm just happy to share that, I don't exactly want the most traditional life right now. I still want to explore and see what life has to offer, but at the same time, like I'm happy to learn more, develop what I do want to end up going into, whether it's a career, whether it's, like having children and having a family. Like I just feel like I have time to do everything that I want. And yeah, I don't want to rush anything.
Okay. Now, okay, that's me. The millennials, a lot of the a lot of like the reels I watch on IG, because I'm too old for TikTok. I will admit that. Kind of are millennials like poking fun at themselves because y'all are the group that I want to say y'all would be coming out of college around 2008, 2009, something like that. And, y'all came out of college during the Great Recession. There were no jobs. You were kids when 9/11 happened. Were you? Am I doing my math right? Because math is not my strong suit.
Yeah, I was
And
14.
okay. Um, okay. So when you said that, I'm like, oh, okay, I could have taught you. That doesn't make me feel old at all. So it's like all of this once in a lifetime kind of stuff keeps happening in y'all's lifetime. And so there seems to be kind of this belief that y'all are sort of disillusioned with the whole American dream sort of thing altogether. Jazzy, Laila, what do you think about that?
Um, the American dream is hilarious to me, and yeah, I don't know if those things are what really. I mean, I feel like even slavery will tell you that America, the dream, is not really a dream. But I guess those things really have an impact on it. I'm not really sure. I just know I've never really cared to have a traditional lifestyle. I've never really went with society norms, and yeah, so I don't know if that's it or my upbringing, but I can see how that could have an impact on our belief systems and how we're growing up and the decisions that we make today. But yeah, I'm not really sure if it's that, but it makes sense.
And yeah, I think for me, and kind of being the older set of those millennials and that zennial, little patch there, I think that I have found myself in a bit of a cross section, right? Because for me, being raised by baby boomers, you know, I was definitely raised in a traditional sense. And I grew up in a neighborhood with people who were very traditional in terms of, you know, you go to school, you graduate high school, you go to college, you get a good job, you marry somebody, you have some kids, y'all go to church, and, you know, and you make a life for yourself. And that's that. And I think that somewhere along the way, though, like, when you get to a point where you start to realize that that's not actually serving you. And I think for me, it just, that ideal wasn't serving me. Like, I was in Michigan, I didn't want to buy a house, you know what I mean? I didn't want to have property there because I didn't want to stay there. I didn't like the idea of, you know, I didn't like the idea of thinking that if something happened, I was gonna have to pay to get my roof replaced. Like, simple stuff like that. That wasn't my dream. And the more and more I thought about that, I was like, I don't even know what that means. Similar to what Jazzy is saying, I don't even know what that means. Like, if that's someone else's dream, fine. But I think, you know, it's important to think less about what's an American dream and think about what's your dream. Like, what serves me? What makes me feel good? What allows me to express myself at the highest level in the world? And maybe that's not following a path that is quote unquote the American dream, and also is very outdated, right? Like, we're in a completely different paradigm now. Just if you think about how much education costs, I mean, that alone just wipes out the whole idea of this American dream type thing. And then when you factor in being Black and that most of us don't come from generations of generational wealth, you know, maybe us in this group right here might be the first benefactors of generational wealth if we have that in our lineage. But that completely negates the idea of an American dream too, because the truth be told, that the people who are technically living this American dream are the people who have benefited from having someone to boost them up in advance, which goes back to the point Jazzy is making about slavery.
Your answer was very much a millennial answer. Because everything I have read, like, okay, I'm Generation X. We are the forgotten generation. We are sandwiched between the millennials and the baby boomers, two of the largest like population cohorts. Because we grew up in the 80s when there were a lot more moms going to work. We were latchkey kids. We, you know, went to daycare, that sort of thing. And Tony, you switching over?
Yeah, it's just acting weird. I was on my phone, but so I'm
Okay,
sorry
no
about all of
problem.
that.
And so by that nature, Gen X, because there are so few of us and everybody focuses on boomers and millennials, because of how we grew up, we are very independent. We are very cynical. So although we kind of don't buy into it, but our attitude is just like, whatever. You know, like, I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to be by myself. Y'all do whatever. But your response was, it checked all the boxes of like how millennials think. They very much are, because they also, or at least I am the mother of a millennial, and I couldn't understand for the longest like how I knew I was raising my kids, but then versus the parents of the kids that I taught. And I was like, y'all's parents are the same age as me, but apparently they weren't, because I started young. And these were more like, y'all all played like fun, fair, positive soccer, and everybody got a trophy and all that. And, you know, for Gen X, we were like, I won, I shot the BB gun. You lost, you ate tomato sauce. Like, we were not raised in an environment that like tried to be nice to us and things like that. We kind of had to learn things the hard way. And I think that then influenced like how we have moved in the world. And then when they talk about Gen Z, they say things about like they are more like independent, entrepreneurial, competitive. They're like, you know, like they're very intolerant of like authoritarian things, like, oh, that's the way we've always done it. That's the way we're going to do it. A Gen Z will be like, But nah, fam, why we got to still do it that way?
Right.
And so when I
That's
think about the reasons we all gave for moving abroad, it's all very, very interesting to me. Now, I know Ashley said, she's going to kind of keep doing till whatever, which is very much a Gen Z response. But to the rest of you ladies, are you planning to stay abroad, or is this sort of like a temporary thing that you're doing and the plan is to eventually return to the US?
I'll speak to that because it's something that's kind of been weighing on me for a while. I'm actually torn. I have small grandchildren, and they want their grandmom near them. Their grandmom wants to be near them at this critical time in their life. So my heartstrings have gotten pulled. I just spent a month with them recently. So how I'm crafting it, what it will probably look like is me going back to, they live in the Los Angeles area, probably making more frequent trips there. But I also had to acknowledge, excuse me, and be real honest with myself that I just really can't see myself living in Los Angeles again. It's just, I spent like 40 years there, and it's changed. Or wait, let me rephrase that. I've changed, and probably both have happened. And it doesn't fit who I am. So that's kind of a challenge. So I'm glad we have technology now, because we'll continue to use FaceTime, and I will fly back over there. And I have family in other places. So what it's looking like for me is probably time here in Mexico in different places, or if I go someplace else, and time back in the United States. I will say that United States, it is my first home. Mexico is now my second home. So I could never say I'll never go back to the United States, because I have too many people that I love and too many people that love me. So I'll have two homes. I think sometimes we think of all or nothing, and that's how I looked at this when I got ready to make this move. I was overwhelmed, and my daughter-in-law said she knew she could tell I was dealing with this like monumentous thing of moving to Mexico, and she said, just take off a piece of it. Just say you're going for 3 weeks or 2 weeks or a month. And when she said that, I heard the angels singing. I was like, oh, that made so much sense, and it took a lot of weight off. And that's how it started. I said, I'm just going to go for a month. Of course, I was planning to stay longer, but that was just easier psychologically for me to deal with it. So I think the all or nothing type of mindset, it's not really serving you. Just, hey, we so many things happen in life. We have to take one day at a time, one season at a time, especially given what's happened in the last couple of years for all of us, regardless of what we had planned, something happened that changed all of our plans. So yeah.
Anybody else, feel free to jump in there.
Yeah, I plan on traveling as much as I can, at least till my knees hurt. But I don't want to stop traveling. I don't see myself living in the States, but I did spend 4 months there recently. I had not spent that much time there since leaving about 5 years ago. So I'll definitely go home and spend maybe a month or, some time with my family, because that was really important, and I needed to rebuild and just spend time with family again. I was in Asia for a long time and didn't ever visit, and but to live there, I don't see myself living there again. Who knows, but I would like to continue to travel and live in different countries as long as I can.
Yeah, and I'm going with the flow, right? I feel like obviously my family is here in the States, and I'm really close to my family. And so I like coming to see them when, when I feel like it's necessary for me to be with them and it's good. But for the most part, after I left the first time in 2021, I was kind of like, I don't know a reason why I would ever come back here. You know what I mean? To live permanently. Never say never, obviously, but like life for me personally just exponentially got better in terms of my quality of life, my joy, my peace, my self-discovery, my ability to connect with myself, the type of people I started to meet. Just, so I had this discussion recently with my brother and my mom, and my brother was like, never. And I was like, what would be here for me? Like, there's not like there's certain things that I maybe kind of miss, but not real. Like I miss certain aspects of like shopping for clothes, because there's so much variety of clothing in the United States that you don't get out of the country. But other than that, it's like I can come home, visit my mama, order up a bunch of stuff on Amazon and Shein, and like go
Okay.
back, you know what I'm saying? Go back to where
Right.
go back to
Go
where I
back
really
to
want to
doing
be.
you.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I would never say never, but and also, just to like a specific point, it's so expensive to live here. Like I've been back here since the middle of April, visiting with my family, and every time I spend money, I'm like, this is insane. Like
Yeah,
I
I
was gonna
feel you.
my best friend, so I'm in Florida, I'm like in the Orlando area right now, and my best friend was coming from North Carolina. She was going to be in Destin, and Destin is like the Emerald Coast of Florida, whatever, it's on the Gulf of Mexico, Emerald Green Water, whatever. So I was, just a quick example, I was going to go up there to visit her, and it was going to be so expensive for me to stay up there for 2 days that I was just like, the math ain't mathing for me. Like I miss you. I really want to see you, but and then
Yeah,
the next day I ended up booking a trip to Belize for this weekend, and 7 days in Belize
right. For
is
the same
literally
amount.
almost, is
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
cheaper. It's almost the same price as if I were going to stay 2 nights in Destin, Florida. And
yeah,
so that for me,
yeah.
I
I
just
hear you.
the math is not mathing for me. So
That's funny. As soon as I land in the LAX, or either I go to or BWI, as soon as I land, I'm counting down to get back, because it's just dollar signs the whole time. It's ching ching ching, and I spend so much money just when I visit that I could live off for a couple of months here. It's just
Yeah.
makes me mad. So
It's very interesting to hear you all say that, you still have this connection going home to visit, because I don't refer to the US as home. And it's quite possible I never felt at home there in the first place. I also have a very, very small family. Basically, I have my children and my grandkids. I don't have like aunts, uncles. I only have one first cousin, and we've only seen each other twice. So I wonder if it's that. When I left, my intention was not to ever go back, if at all possible. When I lived in China, it was a little hard because I couldn't pop up to visit, because previously I'd been in Latin America and it was a lot easier. But when I do go back now, and it's the pandemic didn't help, because when I was there, it was like, well, I can't really hang out with any of you people because I don't want to catch anything. So I was just going to sit in the house, and it was kind of like, well, what's the point? Because I can sit in the house for a lot cheaper in Mexico. But
okay.
I find that, there is less and less when I go back. There are fewer things that I'm like, oh, I got to eat this while I'm here, or I need to go do this while there's less and less of that. So I guess I am hopeful that my children will eventually come where I am, but I cannot see myself living there. I think that might be the thing that broke me. Like I can't see that. And no, I really can't. So that's a very interesting thing to hear all those points of view.
It's interesting when you said, I can appreciate that you say you don't call the U.S. home, because I like I have like 4 boxes in the United States, So I don't have a home there anymore. And when I thought, if I go back, where is home for me? I mean, I got family in Maryland, Ohio, in the LA area, tons of relatives and stuff, but I really don't have my own home. Um, and I have my own home here, you know. So I don't know. That's interesting. I appreciate that because I've asked myself, if I do go back, where is home? So
Um, what's another question? And if the people who are watching, I am starring your questions, so please drop those in the chat and we will circle back to them. Okay, so the second part of my question about intending to stay abroad, I was curious as to, are you doing any kind of planning, long-term planning, financial planning, whatever kind of planning to make that a reality so that you don't have to? I guess a lot of people, especially like some of my clients who tend to be older, are concerned with the idea of aging abroad. And so I'm curious as to what you ladies think about that.
Yeah, so I can answer first. And I kind of mentioned this when I met you, Adelia, in Mexico City, that no, honestly, I don't have any kind of plan because originally when I left the country, I thought I was only going to be gone for like 2 months. I was going to go to Istanbul for 2 months and come back to Florida. And so now it's like I've been gone for 15 months with a couple of stops in the States. And it is just now hitting me that like, okay, La, like we probably should like maybe think about what's the long game here. And so now I've started thinking about like, do I want to have investment properties in some of these places? Do I want to, move into something where I'm not necessarily relying on my US based job, So I would love to hear what the other ladies are doing because, like I said, I'm at a place in my journey where it's kind of just now hitting me that like I might need to start thinking a little more definitively. But at the same time, I like kind of just breezing through it.
Going with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
oh my goodness. Okay, so since you said breezing with the flow, I function quite a bit of my life like breezing through the flow, and you know, at the age that I'm at, and like I said, the reason why I bring up age is because society is making me. Everybody brings it up. Oh, you moved at 63. Oh, you're this age or that age. But for me, I don't process like that. But okay, so I have to for the sake of the way society functions. The short answer is I'm not doing any long-term financial planning. I have some things in place. Should the inevitable happen sooner than later, that is one thing that I've had, frank conversations with my sons. If something, I don't like to have those conversations, but have to have them. And I think as the older you get, I guess statistically you have to pay attention to certain things. So I could still, I could probably do better at having some kind of long plan, but Laila, I'm kind of like you, and my son who is a millennial, or I think no, he's before. I have a millennial. I have one in every generation, and the youngest one, he's real spot on, and he's like, "Mom, what's your long game? Do you have a 5-year plan? We got to get this plan going." And I'm like, okay, because he's a planner. So I've kind of just been, floating. So I'm doing better at it, but yeah.
Adelia, is this terrifying you hearing us say
Well,
this?
no. If anybody, those of you who have met me,
No judgment.
you know this about my personality, and those of you who watch my channel, y'all know I'm the person that says the thing that, like, I don't like to be caught off guard by things. And maybe this is because I am Gen X and like I've been through some shit. I don't know. But I'm like, let's talk about it. Like, let's have the conversation. So it's not terrifying me, but it does not surprise me, which is why I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
Ashley?
Yeah, so for me, as of late, I've definitely been planning a lot more than I used to. When I first started traveling, it was just kind of like go, as long as I have the savings for it, I'll just, burn it out, go back home. And I started working remotely maybe a year into me traveling on and off. And I feel like now I'm kind of getting in the zone where I know, like, for me, I'm finally financially dependent, like, on myself. I know, like, my parents don't exactly have the funds in order to, like, support me, say if anything goes wrong. And so I'm kind of in the frame of mind where, like, I have, like, a steady job. I want to make sure that if anything does happen for whatever reason, like, I could be set for, say, an additional like 6 months, a year. So I've been starting to look more into investing and just wrapping my head around it. I know I don't understand everything. I just have like funds kind of spread out in anything that I think might do something. But I've just been like learning. But yeah, I feel like I do want to be more maybe conscious so that I can have those breaks where it's like I'm not like constantly like I need to work so I can make sure I can like make rent this month, because I'm an independent contractor, so you don't usually like get time off or paid time off at least. So I want to be able to take time off and actually enjoy everywhere that I'm in, or like take a month off if I wanted to. So that's kind of where my headspace has been at lately.
Jazzy, you got any thoughts about that?
No comment. I'm winging life. I hope for the best. I affirm that everything is it's working for my greatest good. I probably should use some financial advice, but for now, I just
that's fine, y'all.
I work, I save. That's it.
No, that's fine. I'm definitely not coming from a place of like, oh, you should be doing this. But if the plan is to go with the flow, just understand what that looks like. In particular, what's really interesting, because with Ashley and Tony, we have two ends of the spectrum. Tony is living on her Social Security in Mexico. And I have heard Tony mention this before, but tell me if I'm correct here, that your Social Security stretches a little further outside the US than
yes.
in.
Yes,
Okay.
I can live here. I can, I can get an apartment. I mean, I've been doing it for 18 months without strain. I could not do it in the United States without still working. And I didn't want to work. I probably will do some tutoring pretty soon just to have some more income, because, can always use, I don't call it extra money. I call it additional, because who has extra money? I think, who has extra. But anyways, yeah, who has extra money? I want to know if you have extra, let me, it's additional. But yeah. So.
And as somebody who will never get Social Security, because I taught in the state of Texas, and the district I taught in did not pay into Social Security.
Wow.
So like, when I think about my future, that looks very different. Yeah. And then we have somebody like Ashley, who is at the beginning of her working life. And because I think a lot of the narratives we hear about moving abroad, it's people who worked somewhere for a few years. They had, a little bit of a cushion maybe before they went. Whereas if things continue like they're going, Ashley will be abroad during the primary working years, where she would be building up this thing for eventually when she decides she doesn't want to work anymore. So I don't know. That's an interesting dynamic there as well. Something else I was thinking about in that question, because in some Facebook group I'm in, someone commented that they were concerned about, like, as you get older, you're less mobile, your health maybe starts to decline, and they weren't really prepared for that to happen if they were living outside the US. My thinking is that happens to people everywhere.
Yeah.
People get old everywhere in the world. It's like, what?
Right.
Old people in Mexico, old people here.
I think it's a comfort. We what you're comfortable with. Our frame of reference is what we know. So if you've grown up or you've lived in your whole life in a place, and me coming from a perspective of having age on me, I get that. But as Jazzy said, people get old all over the world. It just takes some. You just got to do some work to find out the care, the resources that are around you. Like I've had a couple health issues here, and I've had them addressed very well. I think I've had blood work done. I've had an MRI, and it was a fraction of the cost of which I paid. Like I can pay out of pocket here. I've paid out of pocket for my medical care here, and I wasn't strained. I'm expecting and prepared for it to be this huge amount, and when they tell me, I'm like, can you say that again? Are you sure? You just have to. My word would be, you just have to do the work to find out what resources you're going to need. And I found some. I'm still working on it because it is a concern for me. So you're just going to have to find the resources for whatever health issues you have. I mean, they have health insurance here. They have hospitals here. They have specialists here.
It's a mind shift, definitely. I see several people in the comments asking about this. This is a very common thing for teachers. They did not pay it. It's not like they were avoiding paying into Social Security, but if they have a teacher retirement system for the state, a district can opt to pay into that versus Social Security. And for teachers who maybe had a job previously that paid into Social Security and get teacher retirement, they actually get screwed in the end because they don't let you collect both of them. Or
both of them.
A lot of the ladies I worked with, let's say, had a spouse who made more than them, and they were anticipating the day when they could claim the spouse's Social Security. And if you taught as a teacher, it's called the windfall elimination. Basically, it screwed over teachers. So
yeah, I know people that happened to too, and I'm like, I'm glad I didn't. I substitute for many years in different places, and I'm glad I didn't go into a system permanently or for many years, because that wouldn't have worked for me.
Yeah.
It happened. I know a couple of people that's happened to.
Okay. Let's see. Here's a question that we had. Do y'all feel like you're safer abroad more so than in the US?
I treat everywhere like the hood, honestly. So yeah, like I feel safe. I feel like I need to be mindful everywhere I am, no matter where that is, because I treat everywhere like the hood. So I don't feel any less safe. I'll say that.
Okay.
And I kind of feel similarly. I don't want to use the word safe necessarily, but I will say, just to use as an example again, when I was just planning to go to Destin, Florida, I definitely had more anxiety about that than I had planning to go to Mexico or Turkey. So,
Wow.
you know what I mean? Like I was, but similar to what Jazzy is saying, I mean, I think, you have to use your common sense and your awareness everywhere, because, danger could be lurking around any corner. But as a Black woman solo traveler, there's certain places that I'm more skeptical about in the US than I am when it comes to going abroad.
If
And I did feel
anybody,
safer in Asia. I would say parts of Asia, I felt a bit safer, just because I guess the crime was lower there, and you would heard less things happening. Like in Vietnam, where I was, Da Nang, or Thailand. I just felt safer. But they say there's a lot of crime here. People get robbed a lot in Colombia. But since I've been here, I've lost things, and everything has been returned to me. I've dropped money and it's been returned to me. And I know that's through, having good energy and karma, but and then luck is a lot of it too, but yeah, I don't feel necessarily scared traveling alone as a solo woman.
If anybody has ever watched any video I've ever made, you know that I believe safety is an illusion. So I don't think we're ever safe anywhere. So I will say that outside of the US, my concerns are different. When I am in the US, I do not want to interact with the police. I am acutely aware that the people who are in the store where I am, in the restaurant where I am, could be carrying guns. And like, I'm far more likely to be a victim of gun violence there than where I live here in Mexico.
Yeah, that's an excellent way to put it.
Yeah. I wanted to tag team Ashley on this because we're both in Playa, and I feel I was going to say that word safe. I won't say the word safe. I feel comfortable. I'll leave. Sometimes I've gone across the street to a little convenience store. It might be 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and there's people out walking. Some people get off work late here, and I see them having, cooking with their carts on the street. So I feel there's safety in numbers, and there's always people out on the street. So I feel more comfortable here. Like, I wouldn't do this in Los Angeles. I wouldn't go out at 10:30 at night. And another thing is, like with the Delia, the police, I don't really want to have, and I have a couple former police officers in my family, but I don't want to run into them or have anything to do with them in the States, because it's some animosity there that I don't want to deal with. Here, they speak to me. One even asked me out on a date, and I went. It's just a different feel. It's a different feel, and I'm mindful of my surroundings. I don't like, even during daytime, I don't let people walk right behind me. Like, if you're walking behind me, I just step aside and look like I'm looking for something or whatever, and let you go in front of me, because I don't want anybody behind me, man, woman, whatever, child. I just don't like that. So you just use some discretion wherever you're at. And of course, I think from being raised in the United States, that brace of being on guard was there when I got here. And then I, could loosen up a bit, because I see the life that's out, that people are walking around, and, it's just a different feel here in Playa. And in Merida, I stayed in Merida for 8 months, and that at the time was the second safest city in North America, not just Mexico, but in North America. And they're proud to talk about it too. The taxi drivers is very seguridad, I believe. So I feel more comfortable here. And then the gun violence thing too, as Ashley can tell you, there's the police presence here is heavy, and they're fully strapped, right? Machine guns and everything. But I feel more comfortable around them than I do back home. That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Because what are the odds they are going to use those weapons on you?
Right.
Yeah, they'll take your money, but they probably won't take your life.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's how I felt in Turkey.
Right, Jesse.
They did take my money, but I was able to go home. But yes, I would say that they may get you. So know that.
I'm not fearful. So
and
like
I think
I actually felt like they were there to actually protect us and not to prey on certain ones of us. Yeah,
because you saw it too, Layla, when you were here. Yeah, exactly.
But what Jazzy said, I think, is an important. Sometimes I get accused of never talking about like the negative things that exist here in Mexico. And what I often try to stress to people is I am living here as a Black American woman who lived in the United States for 40 years. So my perspective is different. Yes. Do the cops shake people down? Yes. But you lived through that experience. And like, Me looking at it that way, that's colored by the fact that I am a Black American woman. If I was not, maybe I would be like, oh my gosh, I found this whole thing so threatening. But I'm like, they might get me for a few hundred pesos, but I live another day.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. For me, I'm Canadian, so I guess we don't exactly have like the same kind of, I wouldn't say fear, but the same kind of like connotation maybe when it comes to like the police presence. So I feel, of course, super secure in Canada. I feel comfortable. When I'm abroad, I feel like I'm also generally very comfortable. There might be like different worries, like per se, like here in Playa, I might be like more weary or like concerned about going an ATM versus going to an ATM in Canada. I wouldn't really have like, those little concerns, but I feel like it's all like different. Like there are certain areas in like Toronto that I wouldn't go walking around, but here in Playa, I could do that and not really have any issues. So I think the main kind of safety issue maybe that kind of comes into play is listening to a lot of people who will kind of like project their own fears onto you. And I've noticed that a lot. They'll be like, like don't go to Turkey because like they've never been, but they don't know what goes on there. So they kind of like, push their own fears onto you. So a lot of the times, like if I've ever really been concerned, it's been more because like people are just like, oh, don't go here because, people die, but like people die everywhere. So, I mean, you really have to like pick and choose what kind of fears, you'll take into account and which ones you'll be like, okay, like I get it, but I still like do my research. I still pay attention when I'm out and about alone. So, yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm having some technical problems over here trying to find this question because I marked this question that somebody had. Do you guys ever miss the African American experience?
What does that mean?
I don't know. What do you think it means?
I'm
I mean,
still
I guess when I read it, I thought like the Black culture from back home. I don't know. That's what I thought they meant.
Let me think about that before I answer. Let me think. Somebody else can answer before.
I don't
Like
know.
my loctician, I miss my loctician. That part. But again, I taught the ladies in Vietnam how to wash my hair. They couldn't retwist it, but I guess that's a Black experience. I know here they're having a Negro Fest in Colombia. I'll be at an ayahuasca ceremony, so I'm not going. But and then I know in Playa, the Black experience is there. Wednesday night, Sunday night, any night you go out in Playa.
Any night in Playa.
Yeah, it's full on here.
It's Black. It's like the new Atlanta. So, and then here, I don't think I really miss too much. I can find it, and I also do a Black for Black expats on Sundays. We meet for brunch every other week, and so I guess that's like a Sunday dinner or like just reuniting with people that are like you that may have questions or just being with people that are like you again. I think so. The community is a lot stronger than I think people realize abroad. It's so much. I've met people a lot easier. The community is amazing. Abroad, everywhere I've lived, we've had a very strong community. I'm in a group now. Anything that you need, people will respond to you, look out for you. So I guess the answer is that I'm still experiencing the African American experience here abroad.
Yeah, and I think for me, I'm not really sure, right? Because when I was in Turkey, like I missed being able to go get a sew-in. I missed that was probably the Blackest thing that I missed. But at the same time of me saying that I didn't, I also I don't want to say that. The reason why I hesitated to answer this question is because I don't want to say no and then make it sound like I didn't care nothing about being around Black people, because it wasn't that. I will say that I didn't grow up around a bunch of Black people, so that's never been my paradigm. And so when I left the country, being around a bunch of Black people was not a requirement. But I will say, when I got to Mexico, and I was in Playa del Carmen, like the infusion of so many Black women was something that really made my soul rejoice. Even though I didn't feel like I had been missing it, I just was like, wow. And because it was not, but it wasn't just about it being Black women, it was about Black women who were really having a very shared type of experience.
Yeah,
Because
like-minded.
like
Yeah.
Tony was there,
Yeah,
when I was just like
like-minded. Yeah.
captivated by this group of women, and it was so genuine, and the sisterhood
Yeah.
was just so pure. And so, yeah, like I loved it. But then when I left Playa, I didn't miss it. You know what I mean? Like I missed some of the people, but I didn't miss having I didn't miss having that, maybe what we're calling an African American experience.
Yeah.
So I hope I'm kind of answering that question in the way that the person who asked intended. But yeah. And also I think it's important too, like the other thing, similar to what Jazzy was saying about the expat communities, we have a presence everywhere, and we weren't that strong in Turkey, but there was enough connections that I did make with other travelers who were coming through Turkey. But I think the other thing you realize as you get abroad is you realize how pervasive Black culture is, right?
Right.
Like Black culture, African American culture in particular, which is what I'm calling Black culture, is so prevalent and everywhere you go. It's hip hop is everywhere. Certain things about our hairstyles are everywhere. Our fashion is everywhere. Our swag is everywhere, or at least some attempt to replicate our swag. So, you know, I didn't feel disconnected from that. And also, you start to just leverage the tools that you have at your disposal to make sure that you're continuing to get there were times when like there was a sister who I'm still friends with in Turkey, and we used to kind of always talk about like sometimes we would miss when we wanted to make references to like old school hip hop songs and nobody around us knew what we were talking about. So you find ways to have people that you can connect with regularly to just kind of have that moment and feed that part of you that's like, dang, I miss being able to just rap LL Cool J with somebody and everybody know the words, that type of thing.
Ashley, I'm curious to hear from you since you're Canadian.
Yeah. Honestly, it might be a little bit similar to Layla's response because in Canada, like there's not a huge population of Black people, like maybe in certain pockets, like in Toronto, Montreal, like the bigger cities. But in my city, it was not, as big. So traveling, it wasn't usually something I sought out for, just because, it wasn't like the biggest concern. I was just kind of curious about being open to different cultures, meeting different people, like seeing how other people live their lives, basically. There were definitely times and some groups that I'm still in right now where like I look specifically for, like Black solo traveler groups. And I feel as though it's helpful because there are some things about, like being a Black woman that only like another Black woman will get while she's especially like a traveler. But I wouldn't say that there's something that like I'm dying for like when I go back home to Canada. My roots are Caribbean, so I think maybe in Turkey I miss like Caribbean food, but otherwise it wasn't anything huge, like I feel like I still could feel fulfilled while I was outside of where I'm from.
With the exception of, I guess, when I lived in China, because there were virtually no Black people in the city that I lived in. So you can imagine what that was like when you went out in public. But here, it's interesting because y'all talk about the experience of being a Black person in Playa. And I think folks get that and then they come to Mexico City and they are disappointed or they're let down. This is a city of almost 21 million people. You are not going, there are quite a few of us here, but it's not going to look the same. It's not going to feel the same. Once you get tapped in, there are, ways that people are connecting with each other. But I mean, I'm not going to say like I miss walking down the street and seeing people who look like me, but it is nice when you do, and and they're not like Cuban or Dominican or something like that. So like they get the head nod, or
Yeah.
you make a reference to something and they get it. That is nice when it does happen.
I did
Okay.
cry when I went to the Sloss and Swap meet after 4 years, and I saw all this black hair care and black brushes and scarves. I was like,
Sloss and Swap meet in Los Angeles.
yes, the Slauson, yes.
That's hilarious. I've spent.
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's funny.
other than that, like I don't feel like missing.
Yeah.
But when I got there, I could like say, wow, this is our store. I don't have to say, hey, do you, or can you order?
I'm not enjoying the struggle of like, where can I get my hair done? Where can I get my hair cut? Like, that is not fun. Not fun at all. Ashley mentioned Black female travel groups. I don't know if y'all know this, but I have a travel group for Black women solo travelers on Facebook called Picky Girls Travel Solo. And I was not prepared, so I do not have a link for y'all, but there's the name in case that is something that you are looking for. Now, is anyone planning to get residency outside the US?
Oh yeah.
I actually got my temporary residency for 4 years. I got it back in February. There was several reasons. They started to, I don't know if most people know that they really, they changed some of the residency things, like the 6 months is not automatic anymore. And I just didn't want to have a hassle of trouble coming in and out of the country. Because I said I'll be here quite a bit. So and then there's other benefits for it too. So so I got it, and I'm glad I did. So
I've got one, and I'm about to start working on another. I mean, because that was always part of my plan. If I was never going to go back, I had to have residency somewhere.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. I hear you.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make too, is that a lot of these countries, you can't just stay there on, a tourist visa, or, even without having to have like an official visa. Most countries have a limit of time that you can stay there. So yeah, when I was in Turkey, I had residency in Turkey. It expired in March because I only did residency for a year. And I will probably do residency when I go back, just so I can stay longer than 90 days. I didn't do residency in Mexico because I didn't think I was going to be in Mexico as long as I ended up staying in Mexico. But I am kind of now thinking like I would like to do 6 months in Mexico and hop around the countries around there, and do 6 months in Turkey. So yeah, I think it is important to do that, because and a lot of people get confused. I think this is a great question, but a lot of people get confused about residency versus citizenship versus a visa.
Citizenship.
And
Yeah.
so you can have residency in a country. I still have residency also in Florida, because I'm always going to maintain residency in Florida because I have to do that for my US job. So yeah, you can get residency in multiple countries, similar to what Adelia just talked about, without having to relinquish your US citizenship unless you want to for some reason. I don't really see a benefit to that, but that's your business. And then, the visas, you need to be clear on, what type of visa the country is offering, what the parameters are with that, and how long that visa allows you to stay in the country without having to have residency. Also, the other thing that's beneficial in some countries with getting residency is that there's certain things that it's easier for you to make certain kinds of moves when you have residency. Like if you need to get bills in your name, if you need to get a cell phone, in Turkey, there were certain types of purchases you just couldn't do without having
Or even
residency.
open a bank account.
Opening a bank account, all that stuff, and when I needed to get vaccinated, again, that's one of the things that's your choice, but it was easier for me being a resident than if I were just there on like a tourist visa for 90 days. So yes, to answer your question.
Anybody else want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I do plan on it. I'm thinking about Mexico. I want to explore South America first, and then I'll probably go back to Mexico. After living in Asia, it's much just closer living in Mexico. Especially, I do shows. I'm a comedian, so having the access to America is much easier because Asia is far as hell. I love Asia, but it's really far.
It's far.
So yeah, Mexico would probably be what I'm looking into, but I don't know. As I travel and explore places, that may change. But I do plan on getting residency in Mexico when I go back.
Yeah, for me, I'm not sure. Mexico is probably one of the longest places I've stayed in. I usually kind of go to a place for as long as the max visa days will allow for and kind of figure out if I like it enough to stay permanently or get like an extended visa or something like that. Um, Canada isn't really looking appealing right now to be in. So, it could change within the next couple of years. But for now, I've been like, you know, toying with the idea of getting residency somewhere else. Where yet, I don't know. But I would if I could, I think.
Okay. Tony, we've had several versions of this question come up. Folks want to know how you are handling Medicare living in Mexico.
Very good question. Actually, I have a big birthday next month, Lord willing. I turn 65. Woohoo! And that's when it will kick in because, I haven't qualified for it. And so the way I'm doing that is I have a choice. I could not take it because I'm here, because you can't use it in Mexico. You can't use it out of the United States. But I chose to take it because I will go back home enough to where if I have any issues or just for regular preventative care, I'll have that. And then also the government offers this to you. If you do not take it within a window, I think it's like 6 months of when you turn 65, they will impose a 10% tax forever. So like if I decided not to take it this year and then 3 years down the road, I decide to take it, whatever the amount I pay a month for it, it's going to be on that plus 10% forever. I know people that's happened to. Yeah, that's real. And I don't want to be, if I live to be 80, 90, I don't want my family to have an additional burden if, money's an issue where they're going to have to pay it. That 10% can make a difference. And so I don't want to have to worry about that. And my philosophy is I will take it because it's offered, and it's better to have it and not need it than to not need it. And have it and not need it than to not have it and need it. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, you can't use it here. So as I said, I've paid out of pocket for services here. Now that I have my residency, of course, I qualify for the public health insurance here, which I haven't had a chance to really investigate it, but it's been so cost effective. I haven't had to, when I've needed medical care. But so I have two options. I have Medicare as well as the health system here. And then I also can choose private insurance if I want to here. So I'm covering all bases. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I think it does. I am probably the only person that can answer this question, I think. Unless somebody's got a secret baby I don't know about. When I initially moved abroad to Honduras, my youngest daughter was 15 and she came with me. And Honduras is not a country that's known for its educational system or the quality thereof. But I worked at an international school, and as part of my contract, I got free tuition. And just to give you some idea, her tuition was literally half of my salary. So that, to me, that's the big question to ask yourself if you are planning to move abroad with school-age children, is how do you plan to educate them? Because at the top, most expensive tier of that is going to be international schools. anywhere from 10 grand a year to 30 grand a year, USD, easily. There may be bilingual schools, at least here in Mexico, that's like a step below. Depending on the area, there may be some kind of like private school that might work. But like in Honduras, here in Mexico, a public school would not have worked for my kid. Had she come with me to China, public school would not have worked because they're not really set up for second language learners. So that, I think once you answer that question, everything else I think is pretty easy. Okay, I was not going to ask this question until later, but oh, did I just lose it? I think I did. But this is, I'm sure lots of people are dying to know. You're living abroad, some of you for multiple years, some of you are more full-time travel kind of lifestyle. What does dating or a romantic life look like for you? Okay.
Okay, so
Wait. While y'all are thinking of your answers, if you are curious specifically about dating in Mexico, was it a week ago, 2 weeks ago? I had a panel of ladies here who shared what that was about. It's called Dating in Mexico. You can go look there. So, somebody wanna talk about this?
I had
I
a great
do.
time dating in Mexico. I had a struggle with in Vietnam a little bit, um, and yeah, just I like men with beards. I'm a little bigger
Oh.
than me. I don't want to wear his leggings, so that was an issue. But I loved Mexico. It was fun dating there, and here it's not too bad. The men are a little different, but yeah, I have a good time dating.
And you're dating locals as well
Yeah,
as
locals and
foreigners?
foreigners. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I had a great time dating in Turkey. I think, for me, because I am a traveler, um, the biggest challenge with dating is just you're not in one set place, right? And a lot of cultures of men are very different from American men in that they're very skeptical about investing their emotions in you at a deep level if they don't know where you're going to be in 2 weeks. And as I said before, because I'm kind of just flowing through, like, I might be in Istanbul this week, I might be in southern Turkey next week, I might be in Mexico a month from now. And so I can't necessarily give you, you know, that solidness that a lot of them are looking for. But dating was super duper fun. I found the men to be quite masculine, and I got to be in my feminine energy all the time. And it was quite wonderful. I did not date at all in Mexico. I felt like maybe the men just were not into me because they was not checking for your girl in Mexico, and I wasn't checking for them either. Um, I saw a couple cuties in Mexico City and a couple cuties in Guadalajara, and they had a lot of swag in Oaxaca. But outside of there, I didn't see anybody that was catching my eye, and it didn't seem like I was catching nobody else's eye either, which was quite fine because I really did. I was in a different space in Mexico. But I encourage everybody. I know a lot of sisters are, they got to have a black king, and I'm not mad at that. I mean, that's great, but I'm telling you, it's something about dating these foreign men that are just have a different set of values than a lot of the American men that we're used to. And it was a lot of fun.
I see Ashley nodding her head. What would you like to say, Ashley?
I totally agree with Layla's like whole experience, especially in Turkey. I feel like because it is like a very like different culture from what like I'm used to in Canada. There's a different set of expectations, and so if you don't know if you're going to be there permanently, it is like harder to find someone who wants to invest in someone who's going to be abroad most of the times. Otherwise, like dating has been genuinely a really fun experience, especially like coming kind of straight out of college into this whole world where you can meet people in all walks of life, and just experience different cultures. I feel like it's really easy to meet people in general. I know that like my friends back home, they kind of like struggle to just like find where to meet people who they'll connect with. But I feel like for some reason abroad, I don't know if everybody's just like more open, um, just curious about you and where you're from. But I feel like it's just genuinely been a really good experience all around.
Look, Miss Tony, come on and tell
I
us
was
about
like,
your.
this is who
Yeah.
everybody's waiting to hear from.
You know what? Yeah,
Spill all the tea.
it surprised me because I didn't come down here. Look, I wasn't even thinking about. Oh, actually, I was going to say I wasn't even thinking about it, but one of my girlfriends said, "Take your red high heels. Take your red high heels." Yeah, like I said, I'm not invisible here. I've been approached by younger men and men my age. So I mean, I'm not going to complain about that. As I said, I met a police officer who's extremely just so respectful. I mean, for example, when I walk down to the beach, there's a tourist police station where they all meet to go their respective ways where they're going to guard. And in the evenings, they come back. And on 2 occasions, this particular officer, he calls to me. He calls my name. And he calls me Tonita. That's the only time I let somebody call me out of my name. I think that's cute. He's like, you hear this Tonita? And I've been with a girlfriend and a couple of times. And she's like shocked because she's like, that's the second or third time he's done that. And they have masks on and everything. And it's like, they all look the same to me. I don't know if he's over there or not, but he comes away from the crowd. Like, it's like, he comes away from the crowd of police officers and he comes over and he grabs my hand and then he grabs her hand and he says, it's nice to meet you, see you. Now, mind you, he doesn't speak any English. Like we went on one date. It was like date by Google Translate. Right. But very respectful. And then it's even more than about the romance. I think it was Dios le Muerte. What is it? The Day of the Dead?
Day of the Dead.
Yeah. He called me or he texted me and he said, hey, I'm over here at they have this municipal square where they were having like a carnival and a festival there. He said, I would love to invite you over. He was working. He said, but there's an event there. He said, I would love for you to come and just check out my culture, and I'm thinking, wow, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, from the men that I've dated, the American Black men that I've dated, they just, nobody's thinking about the culture or sharing something on another level that's more than about the romance or the love and the relationship stuff. This is, something of substance. That's how that impressed me. He's proud of his culture that he wanted to share that with me, and I appreciated that. Yeah, so we'll see where that goes. We, chat quite a bit. He works quite a bit. So, but it just cracks me up. I'm just flattered and tickled, really, because I wasn't expecting it. But I've dated outside of my race. Like Laila mentioned, I was raised in a very multicultural setting, or more on the white side. So I've dated. In fact, my very first boyfriend was Mexican. So balance some juice here. Yeah, back in the day, yeah. And then I dated someone else here, and I think another friend of mine had mentioned this, that it seems like, I think there's kind of a good time mentality. So for some of the younger men, it's just all about fun. It's not really about having a relationship. Like, you might see them for a little period of time and then go on or whatever, and which is fine. I'm not looking for anything like really deep, but you might not ever hear from him again, but he showed me a wonderful time. So yeah, that's been my experience here. And the reason I haven't dated any more besides those 2 gentlemen is because I haven't wanted to, because I know if I wanted to, I could. I just haven't I haven't pursued it, but I can tell if I wanted to pursue it, I could, because I get enough signals. So I'm feeling myself at what, 60,
Okay.
almost 65. Okay. So
Okay.
As you should.
Okay.
Only got our groove back,
As
right?
you should. I just want to say the
so
people in the comments are cracking me up. So like, if you guys catch me kind of like giggling while you're talking,
Where
I'm
do
not
you see
laughing at
comments?
you. I'm
If
laughing
you
at these
look over
people
to
in
the
the
side,
comments.
I don't see
Oh,
any
I
comments.
have it on
What are they
5%.
saying? Oh, let
Somebody
me go
said
to
Tony got a
comments.
boot
Okay.
bang.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. I came over here and got my groove back. I didn't even know, But you know what else is true here for Mexico is that, I've been single for many, many years, and I do single well. But it hasn't been till I came to Mexico that I'm starting to think, geez, it would be really nice to have a companion or maybe love interest, because you see how affectionate they are here.
Oh my.
Laila, I don't know if you've noticed, Matt, they're just walking down the street holding hands, or they're eating ice creams together. And I'm thinking, I didn't grow up seeing that. If I go back to
they're
the
full
States,
on making out.
Yes,
no, they're
that,
just
yeah, they are
enjoying
very
each other's
affectionate.
company. They're enjoying each other's company. And I'm like starting to think, that would be really nice. It's nothing all deep about how much money he makes and all this other kind of stuff and all these other issues. Just two people appreciating each other. I see it all the time. And they just loving on each other. And, they don't even have, people, a lot of them don't have that much means. But it's like, it don't matter. They have each other and they show it. They're with their families. They're with each other, and they're, snuggled up with each other. And you just see that affection, public, what is it they say now? Public
Public
display.
displays of
Yeah.
affection. Yeah,
Yeah.
PDA.
Yeah. There you go. The millennials, you guys got all these codes and everything, names for acronyms for everything. But yeah, so that is something that being here makes me kind of want to have a love interest, because it's all around.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I never felt properly courted until I left the United States.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been like properly courted and dated by a grown man until I left the States.
Okay. So, for those of you that asked that question, I think you got your answers.
Tony got everybody ready to move to Playa del Carmen. They're in the comments
I'm telling you.
like, they're in
I
the comments
mean,
like,
yeah. It's
Okay.
fun.
What has been the hardest thing about choosing to live this life and make this move abroad?
I know for me personally, I can say that I feel as though you make amazing connections, you make amazing friends. But if you make friends with other travelers, like they're always going to be traveling, you're always going to be traveling. So just having like that stretch of like so many people who you really just adore, but are always going to be, like wanderlustful at heart, like you are. I feel like that's kind of the hardest thing for me, because I really do love, a little bit of stability within like the chaos of being kind of nomadic. And I always feel like the community that I built is part of that stability. So having so much like come and go is probably my like biggest or like the biggest drawback maybe of kind of being nomadic.
I would say the hardest part for me is probably related to just like I'm not in one place, right? So it's the constant planning all the time and not having anybody to ever help. So, like, it looks real glamorous and fly on Instagram, but trust me, like, I spend so much time every day, like, where am I going next? How do I get there? How do I get around when I get there? Where am I going to stay? And I mean, I can research for days and days sometimes just to find a proper apartment or Airbnb or hotel that I like. So, like, that gets exhausting just because it's like sometimes you want somebody to just be there and be like, babe, can you just, or homegirl, can you just decide where we're going to go next and figure out the ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
So that's really probably the hardest part about this lifestyle choice. But in terms of actually being abroad, I think that in some countries were like, so I felt like and not to go back to the dating thing, but also not just dating, but making friends with the locals. I felt that that was very difficult for me in Mexico because of the language barrier. And I didn't really have that problem in Turkey with the locals. But it was difficult. I really wanted to be more with the locals, but I don't speak any Spanish, and I was trying, but like it just wasn't enough. So that was probably the most difficult part. But it didn't hinder me from being able to move around and enjoy myself, but just like to really make those deep connections with local people. The language barrier was kind of difficult for me in Mexico.
I would say the hardest part is to the I've had so many going away parties and gone to so many going away parties, but also I see these people again. Like Ashley, did we meet in Chiang Mai,
Yeah, we met
Thailand?
in Chiang Mai.
I went out to lunch with someone I met in Chiang Mai again. I connected with two women here when I first got to Medellin, and I met them in Mexico. So it's always see you later. But it's hard sometimes. And then again, the language barrier, as you said, like yesterday, I was trying to order plantains with my meal, and she didn't understand me, so I showed her a photo, but I showed her a raw one. So they went across the street and bought me a banana. And I was like, oh no, not a banana. Like, and then I was finally able to show them the photo of it how I wanted it. And the entire restaurant starts laughing. And I was like, well, this is what happens when you're living your life abroad. You know, I'm out of my comfort zone, and that's okay. It was embarrassing, but I laughed too. And I was like, yo, like, look at your life. So I can appreciate those moments, and it also keeps me mindful. I'm mindful of everything because I'm not an autopilot. Every day is so different. But now I'm talking about what I like. So that's the part that was hard, is the language barrier. And yeah, the goodbyes. But yeah, overall, I really like it.
I think the hardest, probably the hardest thing for me has been, I'm an extrovert. I draw my energy from people, but I'm so relaxed and so comfortable here that I keep to myself more probably than I should lately, that I'm kind of like turning into an introvert.
Only an
And
extrovert would say that like it's a bad thing, but go ahead. Go ahead.
well, no, that's a good thing because I'm kind of feeling it, right? But the only way that it's not good is that the point is the reason why I'm here is to explore, right? And you can't explore staying in your house. You can't. So that's been a challenge for me, is to not keep myself so isolated. And in fact, one of the reasons why I moved to Playa, because in Merida I lived not in Central, it was kind of out of the way, a quiet neighborhood, and I needed more stimulation and be able to walk outside and see more life and people. And so not being isolated, because when you get, well, I can only speak for myself, but if you're so isolated, then you talk to yourself too much, you're in your head too much, and it takes you down rabbit holes you don't need to go down. And so so just to not be isolated and to engage more, and to just explore more, because sometimes I can pull back, and that's not what I came here for. But it's real comfortable because it's very easy to just kind of stay off to myself. So so
Does anybody speak Spanish?
I speak,
Poquito.
yeah, poquito. I speak enough to where I understand quite a bit that's spoken to me, and I context is a lot of it. But I had Spanish in my growing up years, so it's come back to me. So I speak enough to get by. Of course, when they speak too fast, and of course there's millions of words I don't know, but I've managed to kind of get through some difficult situations, trying to communicate. So I would say I have enough to manage. I have thus far. So, but it's on both sides, because I run into enough English speakers too. So with their broken English and my broken Spanish, I've managed to do everything from, like, I remember the day I applied for a store card. Like I have you know how you go to the grocery store and you have a store card? I thought I saw people using it and I wanted to get one. And nobody spoke English, but I was able to communicate that and filled it out. And I felt like that was an accomplishment that day because I have my store card. And so I figured it out. That's one thing I like about this journey is that it forces you to figure out things.
Yes.
You know, nobody, you got to figure it out, and you will, you know. So, and I think that's good as you get older to still be figuring things out, still be learning, and still be enjoying. And so those are things that I'm, you know, pretty big on. So.
I'm always hesitant to say I speak Spanish. I guess technically I do, but I don't speak it very well. Just today, it was hilarious. I needed to make a fascinator and I couldn't find like where to buy one. So I go into the craft shops. It's like a Michael's, and I'm trying to explain to them what I want, and they're trying to tell me, well, this is what you could do, and you could take this class. And I was like, no, uh, something more simple. It was just hilarious to where like the other workers are gathering around and they're laughing because they're like, y'all don't know what the hell y'all are doing. So it, I I don't get frustrated by that. I just kind of roll with it, and that's the cost I pay to live here, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you to everybody who wished me birthday wishes. I say
Happy
thank you
birthday.
so much. That was so nice of everybody.
We've had several people ask if you drive.
I do not, and I will not. I like having Uber drive me. I say my car is coming. Yeah, I like that. I actually had to renew my license in America when I got there, and I was like, I couldn't remember how to reverse. I was like, do you have to press the or the gas thing? It took me a minute. I was looking at how to pump the gas again, but I figured it out eventually. And yeah, I prefer to just use Uber while driving abroad for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I did some driving when I was in southern Turkey, just because it allowed me to get around to a lot of places quickly. But for the most part, like Jazzy said, like part of the joy for me of being abroad is that cities and neighborhoods tend to be designed for you to be able to walk them.
Yeah, I know.
And it's actually one of the things that I hate when I come to the States is that I'm just like, I
Mm-hmm.
hate that I have to get in a car to go everywhere. And, you know, yeah, so I take advantage of not having to have a car. And in most other countries, Uber is pretty reasonable. Or you can pretty much walk everywhere. Like I found that somebody had asked earlier about like, do we feel like our health has improved since
Yeah.
we moved abroad? And I'm like, yeah, because I was walking everywhere, hiking every day, out in nature so much more than I am here. Yeah.
The food is healthier. I think the preservatives and things like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
I drop weight without trying when I move abroad.
Yeah.
I feel
And the
better.
mental
Yeah,
health aspects
yeah,
too, right? Your
yeah.
mental and emotional health, which
Mm-hmm.
thereby plays into your physical health too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I don't. I had no intentions of bringing my car. I sold my car before I came, and I part of one of the things that I try to make sure that I do is I like being with the locals. So I'm like the queen of riding collectivos in the public bus
Oh
here.
yes,
And then I
love
take
it.
the taxis when it's so hot. So it's still walkable, but if it's so hot, I'm calling a taxi. It's like whatever you charge and I'm paying because it's so hot, you know. But I enjoy being with the locals. It's I just like that whole experience. And I get on and I say Buenos dias or Buenos noches, and everybody speaks back. You know, it's just really cool. And I had an experience on a bus that brought me to tears. It was really packed, and I got on. I had groceries, and the lady sitting, like I was standing up on the bus, and she got up and she told her daughter to get up out of the seat, and they motioned me to sit down in her daughter's seat. Nobody has ever did that before when I used to ride the buses back in the day in America.
Oh yeah.
That was just that was really that was touching to me, because I feel like people have had my back here. Like, I even left my ATM card in the ATM machine, and this guy ran across the street and gave it to me. Yeah,
Yeah, I had an
so
Uber driver return my car. I didn't realize it was missing, and he came back to the place, my home, and dropped it off. And someone, yeah, dropped money. Someone ran up behind me and gave me that and my debit
wow.
card. And I'm like, yeah, you leaving
Yeah.
a lot of stuff, girl. But yeah, it's yeah, the people are kind.
Every time I see that, or like when there is somebody who needs help getting on and off the bus, that there is inevitably there's at least two or three people that are making sure like this older woman can get up on the bus, or like when they need to let the ramp down for somebody who's in a wheelchair or what have you, like even if it's crowded, we all just bunch up together to make sure that they've got space.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
recall that uh, with the
Yeah.
same, like without having to be prompted. And
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
something I noticed when I first moved here.
Yeah. It's like everybody's all, when I get in the collectivos, even if it's crowded, like when I approach the door, they're scooting over to, and that to me, you know, I just really appreciate that, because as you know, in the States, it ain't, folk ain't trying to, mm-mm.
Um, the art today asked, is there racism where you ladies are? And I'm going to answer this question. Yes, there is. Racism is everywhere, y'all. It's all about, is it the flavor you can tolerate?
Right.
I mean, I don't know if there's something else y'all want to add to that, but
The only thing I would add to that is, if it's not racism, it's colorism. If it's not colorism, it's classism. You know what I mean?
yep.
Yeah.
You're not
Mhm.
escaping that
That's
unless you're
everywhere.
going to
Yeah.
yourself.
And two, I think sometimes we apply everything to race, and it's just like some people are mean or some people are rude, like, because I see
Right.
non-Black people
Right.
having the same experiences and sharing those experiences, but as Black people, I think we always take it on as that, and that's something that I've been releasing, where I'm just like, maybe this is just an experience, and maybe it's not racism.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Okay. My last question for you ladies. What advice do you have for a woman of your age group who is watching this? And I'm assuming that if they're watching this, they maybe are contemplating making a move and leaving their home country. Primarily, my audience is in the US, but possibly it could be Canada. I don't know. So what advice would you have for somebody in your age group watching this?
Well, for me, I feel as though when you like first want to, travel, be abroad, you tend to think of like the furthest place you can go. And it's like really daunting, I feel, if you're like planning a trip, you're going there on your own to like be planning for Southeast Asia for your first ever, experience. But I feel like if you take like a little bit more of like baby steps, if you're doing little solo dates in your own city to get a feel for what it's like to be independent and what it's like to do something on your own, like take yourself to a museum or whatever it is, um, it builds your confidence. And I think that that's something that's really important to have, like your sense of self before you go abroad, or else you'll just kind of like be scared. You won't be as open to meeting new people, seeing new things. And yeah, so I think my biggest piece of advice is to start small, start in your like home city, do what you can, because I know like when I first started traveling, I had next to no money and it was very difficult to even like dream about going to Asia or going to Turkey or going to like Europe. So like start where you are, build your confidence and go from there, I'd say.
Um, I'll go next, so I don't forget. We start forgetting things, so we're gonna go next. Um, two things. I see you laughing. But is don't let fear stop you, because I don't want anybody thinking that, I just woke up one day and just hopped on a plane without, with no fear. It was, are you kidding me? It's probably one of the most courageous, if not the most courageous thing I've done in my life. But what I say is I packed my fear in my suitcase and I came. And a lot of it has to do like what your mind is going to tell you and what other people are going to tell you that can just grip you in fear and make you not want to do anything. And like Ashley said too, take small steps, whether it's you want to travel abroad first, like she said, go in your city, because I recommend people doing that. There's wonders all around us in our cities that we don't venture out. So not letting fear stop you. And I think I forgot about the second thing, but that's really important. Like your mindset, because if you're, the other thing is figure out how you can do it, because we are bombarded. You hear me? Okay,
Yeah.
we blocked out for a minute. We're bombarded with all the social media. Everybody looks like they're having a great time at all these luxurious places and everything, and all that's fine. But do what you can do. When I came here was I said, okay, where in the world where my money that I have, where can I go to live, well at? And Mexico fit that bill. Find out what you can do with what you have. Don't like cancel out what you can't do, because we look at all these things that other people are doing and what they have and everything, but do what you can do, because you can do something. Like build your own travel plan. If that's what you want to do, if you want to move around, find out how you can make it work for yourself. So.
I would say you don't know until you go. A lot of people they want all the answers, and I think it's impossible to have all the answers before you do something. I didn't know I would be here this long. I didn't think that I would make money the way that I am making money. So I discovered all these things as my journey continued. So yeah, just trying to plan out. I would just say, yeah, don't try to plan every little step. You don't have to have all the answers, and yeah, just faith goes a long way, and not allowing people to project their fears on you. I remember when I was leaving from Mexico, and my aunt was like, "Hey, what about the cartel?" And like, you live in South Central with the Bloods and the Crips, it's. And I asked her, "Well, what was your experience when you went to Mexico?" She said, "I've never been to Mexico," and at that point, I shut it down because you're not able to give me any reliable information. So yeah, talk to people who've done it, but also have your own experience.
And my advice would be first and foremost, pray. If you're not a spiritual person, then maybe that's not for you, but definitely being in prayer and in alignment spiritually for me has been a huge factor in just being able to embrace the journey, but also walk in my own authenticity. So that would be the second piece of advice that I would say is walk in your authenticity, because similar to what Miss Tony was saying, is that you're going to see a bunch of people doing similar things to you, doing it differently than you, maybe making it look more fun, maybe making it look more glamorous. But your journey is your journey and your opportunity to really tap into your own authenticity. And I think having that spiritual grounding through prayer for me has kind of really been a foundation to me just being able to walk out my path as it's meant for me to walk it out. Sorry, that's my phone.
And for the Gen Xers, I think I don't know, I come to feel like we were never encouraged to nobody paid attention to us. We were just kind of like, go sit down somewhere, mind your business, keep your head down. So I guess I'm going to encourage them to, if this is something that they're interested in doing, go for it. And you can make it happen. I say this all the time. I was an underpaid. I had no idea how poorly I was being paid until I, left the US and heard what other people were making. I was a school teacher. And if I can figure out a way to do this, you can too. Absolutely. Thank you, ladies, for
Oh, just one
joining.
more comment. Sorry, I just
Yes,
wanted to add
ma'am.
one more thing with loss. I think that a lot of us take it hard, but to me, it reminds me to live, right? Because life is short, and yeah, like don't let that stop you. Let that use that as fuel to live your life fully, freely, bravely, and boldly.
Absolutely.
Man.
Absolutely. Um, Thank you all, ladies, for joining us and sharing your experience. I hope those of you who are watching this, either live or in the replay, enjoyed it as well. After we finish, I will make sure that I have a link to everybody's Instagram so that you can continue to follow their journey. I'll also put a link in the description for the Facebook group for Black female solo travelers. I know that this can be very daunting, especially if, no matter the age, if you have never traveled anywhere alone, if you've never seen anybody who looks like you doing it. And so it's always helpful to connect with other women, ask your questions in a safe space where there is no such thing as a stupid question. If you want to know how something works, you are free to ask that. So yeah, thank you, everybody. If you are planning a move abroad and you are curious about where to get started, in the description of this video there is a link to my free move abroad checklist. I would imagine having such a list is going to be helpful as you're trying to organize and put together all the things you need to do before you bounce up out of the United States. Thank you, Abba, and who else? And Andre, thank you for the super chats. Yeah, thank you. Thank you to everybody. And so,
Thanks for having me.
Thank
absolutely, y'all.
you.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
This
Yeah,
was awesome.
appreciate it.
This was
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you.